New quarterback, a new offense for the first time against a decent opponent on the road, and it looked mighty good for the Canes. We got the wholesome one on the line talking Miami football here with the Cardinals put away and the Noles up ahead. Wholesome one, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. We're 2-0 for first time in a while, Mark. We haven't been undefeated 3 weeks in. You go back to 2018, we lost to LSU. Last year, we lost to Florida. So it feels good to be undefeated. We played a Power 5 team. We showed up on national TV. So it's a lot to talk about. I'm excited to get to it.
We'll see how good Louisville is, but certainly everybody respected their offense coming into this game. Playmakers all over the field, one of the best backs in the ACC, one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. I don't think they did anything on offense, at least with the skill position players, that surprised anyone in regards to that they aren't that good, because they are. The offensive line was taken advantage of by Miami's top 5 to 10 defensive line in the country. I think the pass rush showed up, and the run game was contained, even though Hawkins got his yardage. And of course, on offense, they cut loose and made huge plays all night.
Absolutely. I mean, we kind of tried to contain them, but I mean, 26 carries, Mark, that's a lot of carries. There was some points in the game where, as someone who film analysis and looks at every single play, there's a lot of things I saw wrong. But the beautiful part about it all, Mark, is that our players are happy. And you listen to any of the interviews, you listen to any of the coaches and the players, and neither one of them are satisfied with what happened this past Saturday. We feel like we left a lot of points on the football field. We left a lot of yards that we could have been able to stop. A lot of gains. We left a lot of open field tackles. We left a lot of split and double teams. So that's the beautiful part about looking at it from a coach's perspective. But a fan perspective is we won. We were on a national stage and we won. And not only did we win, we looked really good and explosive as far as Jalen Knighton's 74-yarder, Cam Harris's 75-yarder, Brevin Jordan's 47-yard bomb. You had the 57-yard kick by Jose Borregales. I mean, we looked explosive and confident on national TV. And if you look on it just on big scale, you're happy to see Miami do something like that on a stage, because we are the talk of college football for that weekend. Now we have another weekend where it's the opening weekend in the SEC. And they're not going to Ole Miss in Florida. They're not going to Georgia and whoever they're playing, Arkansas. They're going to Miami, the University of Miami, down in Coral Gables for College game day. And we get the ABC 8 p.m. kickoff game again against a hated rival. So therefore, we have to take advantage of this stage, Mark. Think about it on a grand scale. We hadn't always taken advantage of this stage. And as far as we showed up, I mean, we were there, we were scheduled, but we didn't play well. So I'm excited about what Miami did this past Saturday. And I'm hoping we can do even better this Saturday against Tallahassee, a school that I have no love for in my heart at all.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. I'm not the brightest guy in the world, but based on our conversations, I didn't think it took me too long to figure that one out. Back to the Louisville game, I think if most Miami fans had taken in, let's say, a game in which the Canes won in the last 3 or 4 minutes, 31-28, good opponent. We'll find out how good they are, of course, with everybody else. We'll find out truly how good they are, but we know what they were last season. We know what the projections were toward this season by most people. They were pretty highly regarded on the road. Good coaching staff, playmakers on offense. Had the game been close, just to get a win as a 2 to 3 point underdog, I think everybody would have been satisfied with that. But 47-34 does not indicate the dominance in this game. They kept scoring the first couple drives, I should say, in the third quarter to get within a touchdown, but they could never make the stop. Miami, from about the second or third possession of the game, was clearly the better team. Mm-hmm. And I think the only advantage coming into the game that we thought Louisville might have, at least from my perspective, was not that they had more playmakers on offense or more speed or anything like that, but they had played together as a group. Mm-hmm. The receivers, the running back, the quarterback, they had all played together at least just last season. So they had that continuity where the Canes were still trying to figure it out on offense, but they certainly figured it out in a hurry. And so defensively, I sat here and took a beating after the game to say, yeah, I picked Louisville to win this game because it didn't take a whole lot of deduction to figure it out. And I said it right here that I think the playmakers on offense and the speed and everything else, if anything, Miami had an edge, but Louisville, again, had that continuity, and we knew what they were. They were a known factor, whereas Louisville's defense is probably a 4 on a scale of 1 to 10, unless they improve drastically. They just have their issues, where Miami's bringing a top 10 defense to the field. So it all added up to probably what it should have been, but that was not much short of a dominant effort.
And it's nice to hear you say that, because someone who can take a big scale approach looking at it. I mean, of course, you like Miami to a certain extent. I mean, you let us come on here and talk about them, and you do your analysis on them. But, you look at college football across all 130 some odd teams, if you could. If you had somebody from every single school to come on, you would let them. So it's not really a bias for you. So that's good to hear, because you look at it like, well, what would have given you the point to pick Miami previously? I mean, a lot of us weren't happy that you said it, but it's the truth. I mean, up until last night, and not last night, but Saturday, what about Miami on a national stage, excluding 2017, shows that when we get that stage, we get that chance, we take advantage of it? Not much. So I was very hesitant. I mean, I felt like we were going to win, of course, and I'm going to be confident in my Canes, but I want to see it, and now we have something of substance when it comes to what this team can do against a quality opponent on a stage like that on the road. And I remember breaking it down probably like a month ago. I like the way our schedule went. You start out with UAB, that is not a slouch. You go on the road to Louisville, and you come back home for your rivalry emotional game. That's a nice lineup going into the biggest game in recent history against Clemson in a couple weeks. And not to look all the way that far, but I'm just saying I like the way that it lined up, man. And to speak more about this Louisville game, a couple things I was pretty disappointed about. Seemed like we were very explosive, but as far as being able to tie a drive together, stalling out, whether it was drops or penalties, or we didn't have any fumbling. The O-line not really creating a lot of movement on first down in the run game. I mean, it was too many 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8s, and we still found ways to convert. I mean, there's plenty of times I saw De'Aaron King literally sit in that pocket and find a Mark Pope on a deep comeback, or find a Brevin Jordan on just a simple out, but he was able to break a tackle and get the first down. So, it's a lot that we could sit here and complain about, but the beautiful part is we won the game, we looked good, and a lot of our playmakers made plays. I mean, people say, well, we only have 3 explosive plays. You take those away, it's a close game. You can say that about any game in college football, man. You're going to have that happen. You're going to have your Oklahomas that are going to make those big plays, and then they're going to have some sustained drives. You're going to have your Floridas, you're going to have your Bamas, your LSUs that do the same thing. So I'm really happy as far as the outcome. Now, of course, you can overanalyze anything and find, if you stare at something long enough, Mark, you can find something wrong with almost anything. So, hey, we should have put more points on them. I still think our pass rush needs to take that step. I believe we had 6 QB hurries, so we were there. Probably more than that, but I know from the defensive line exclusively, we had plenty of QB hurries. I could really sit here and complain about the officiating all day long. I mean, even when you rewatch it, it's pretty bad. It's some pretty bad, egregious holding penalties that were not called. You can literally see our players getting yanked and pulled, and you're like, yo, you're not going to call that? Not at all. And, when you wear the orange and green, you wear the Miami logo, and a lot of people feel like that. There's people in Clemson, South Carolina, who feel like the refs hate them. There's people at USC that feel like the refs hate them and don't treat them fair, but it's different when you talk about Miami and referees. Some hated us in the 80s and 90s. Some loved us. Some can't stand us. So, they take their chances whenever they can. But
the biggest criticism I heard after the game, Wholesome One, was that the defense gave up plays. I wasn't that concerned with that because number one, Louisville's going to make plays on teams. They're just going to make the days of going in against an opponent and holding them to a touchdown and winning, 28-7. Those days don't necessarily happen too often during these times. Everybody's too explosive. They've got too many playmakers. They're going to make some plays. And I know that the yardage total, I believe, was over 500 for them.
Yep.
But my goodness, it was once it hit 37-20, once you guys tacked on that field goal to go from 2 scores to 3 scores, I thought right there, game over. And I don't remember how much time was left at that point. But then they scored to make it 40-27 with about 7 minutes left. So that's 2 scores, 7 minutes. I think the game's still over. It should be over. But we see probably 15 or 20 college football games like that in the span of the season where team comes back from 2 scores with 7 minutes left. So I thought it might still be a game. But basically, the game was over sometime in the third quarter, and they scored. The 34 was not, to me, a legit 34, it being a competitive game. Obviously, the last touchdown was just a tack on. So the points and the yardage for them, I wasn't completely concerned about.
There's always a story to it. I mean, people who just look at, Tutu Atwell's stat line. So Tutu Atwell was 8 for 114 and 2 touchdowns. If you just look at that, you're like, oh, well, one of those guys went off, So hopefully you look at the big score, you're like, oh, well, they were in a shootout. Not really. I mean, you are correct. I mean, we dominated to a certain extent, but what I didn't like about it was people not even acknowledging the fact that almost that whole fourth quarter was our second string defense. I mean, looking at nothing but redshirt freshmen, true sophomores on the field. Is it acceptable? Absolutely not. In the moment, I was very angry, very angry because they would just drive down the field. They were popping off 9, 10, 11 yards per carry with no problem. Then they'll turn around and dump the ball off for 15 yards. And I'm like, what happened to this aggressive defense? But then I looked at, as I'm watching the film, I'm like, whoa, never mind. That's Sam Brooks. He's not a starter. That's Wayman Steed. He's coming off injury. That's number 34, Ryan Rigoni. He just got on scholarship this year. You get what I'm, it's Cam Williams on the field, redshirt freshman number 22. Jafari Harvey, redshirt freshman number 12 on the field. Jacoby Blissett, number 92. He only had 1 stat to his name last year. So it builds a little bit of context to what you're watching when you go back and rewatch it. And could we be angry about it? Yes. Do I think the people who are in those rooms and rewatching that film, are they happy about it? Absolutely not. But in the grand scale of things, we gave up some late garbage touchdowns. I don't like it. But when our starters were out there, all things being equal, Mark, it didn't look like it was a fair game. As far as O-line against our D-line, they had to hold to even block because we were getting pressure, man. We were blowing people up. Nesta Silvera showed up. Phillips did a lot. I was really thankful that he was able to get off that dirty cut block. That was a nasty one. When he targeted the wide receiver, came across, or running back, and targeted his knee, that was a bit borderline right there. How they coached it and how they went after Jalen, but he was able to kind of give on that one because if he kind of kept his knee straight and put weight on it, it's probably blown out the other side. So I'm happy that he was able to get up and jog to the sideline and be able to come back in the game. To see Amari Carter with that penalty that was thrown on him, because either way, they gave him the 15 yards, but whether he was kicked out of the game or not was up for review. I thought it was obvious that it wasn't targeting, and we spent a couple minutes wasting our time because it obviously wasn't targeting. Then you also had the roughing the punter, which I felt like that was definitely roughing, but you give and you take. You understand that there are human beings calling these games. It's not an NCAA video game. It's not robots. So you're going to have to live in it. You're going to have to react to what happens to you in these football games. You're going to have to keep pushing. You're going to have to keep playing. So I think we did, and I want to see more, and I think there is more. But one thing I can take away from this, Mark, I was super excited to see Red Lashley go into his bag and pull out some big-time plays. Because anytime they scored, we came down and answered, whether it was with a field goal or a touchdown. Because at one point, it was a 27-20 game. A little bit of the momentum started to swing to Louisville. They went on a long drive and scored on a cutback touchdown. So it was like, what's going on here? What are we going to do? Is this going to turn into the old Miami, or are we going to see something? First play, stretch, right up, 75 yards. So it was kind of like a backbreaker to Louisville. And they tried to get back in the game, and then they give us the ball again, and then Jalen Knighton goes for 75 yards. So it got to a point where we really kind of, like you said, that 34-20 point, it felt like it was over because we kind of broke their back and broke their spirits. Kind of similar to how they did to us in 2014 with Brad Kaya in his first career game. Same place, same time, honestly, but it was a Memorial Day kickoff on Monday. And Miami gets within 7, and then they had a back-breaking kick return to go 21-14 after we went on an 18-play drive to score and tie the game. They had a kick return and took it back, and it kind of broke the back of our confidence. So it was nice to be able to do it, Mark. And to have, like I say, to be the talk of college football for a little bit feels good.
Yeah, I would say that, and of course, the SEC and the Big Ten aren't on the field yet, and the ACC and the Big 12 just started, but that's the most significant win to me of the season. That's the biggest game and the most significant win in college football as of right this second. That's going to change quickly on Saturday, I would think, with, again, the SEC in play, and everybody will be underway here very shortly. So our guy on the line here, Ty, is alluding to whether Peyton's going to be back, and that leads me into this observation. I think Brevin Jordan is probably, I'm sorry, check that. Mark Pope has probably hit his quota for dropped passes already this season. He dropped some big ones. You talk about, and I was trying, anytime there's a play like that, I also try to take note of, okay, what happened that drive? Did they recover from that? So they made some missteps from time to time, like the play to Will Mallory where he scored, what was that going to be, like an 80-yard touchdown because nobody heard the whistle? And that lean by was it the right tackle? I forget who they called for procedure.
They called it on DJ Scaife, who was our right guard, but when you watch the replay, it was Jared Williams, the right tackle. And it's it was messed up because they called 2 penalties simultaneously, like at the same time, 2 separate ones.
Yeah.
So one of them from the sideline referee was illegal formation, and they found out it wasn't illegal formation. So then the ref was behind and said, "Oh, well, I found false start, so that's why we're going to stop the play."
So I'm not going to pretend to exactly remember that, but I thought at the time, I thought that was a ticky-tack call, or I didn't quite see it. It was a lean, if anything, and also, you hate to see penalties that are called, even if they're legit and the official should call the penalty. You hate to see a penalty that didn't affect the play. You hate to see a guy run 95 yards with a kickoff return for a touchdown and they call something and it was on the other side of the field and there's no way the guy would have made a play, but the official's calling the game and he's just going to call it. And it needs to be called. I get that. But, yeah, I just try to keep track of, okay, there's a misstep there. So when Mallory scored the touchdown, okay, is Miami going to recover? Because I think that put them into one of their many like 3rd and 18 kind of situations, and they recovered, I thought, that time. Same thing with some of the Pope drops, especially the one long one down the right sideline. The DB whiffed on it, and it was right in the breadbasket, and that happened a couple times to him.
And, not to just harp on Noodles, because I think he was the one that had the big noticeable ones because it was like, what's going on here? I think he had 3 or 4 in one game. But you had Mike Harley, who dropped a simple out route. He catches and he walks in the end zone. But what's happening, Mark, is I think that they're having to really coach out of them that trapping the ball and catching it with your stomach. Instead of catching the ball with your hands, you look at every single drop pass, excluding, I think Reverend Jordan had one where it like literally hit him in the fingertips because it was really low. But besides that, every one of them, our wide receivers or a tight end, tried to catch it with their body instead of using their hands, like our wide receiver coach is teaching them, our tight ends coach is teaching them. And they will have on film, this is why you don't do that. Because we're not coaching it like that here anymore. We're not accepting that because this is what happens. You know, anytime we used our hands, it was probably a 9.5 out of 10 that we caught it. But anytime we tried to use our body or, you know, try to catch it like a punt return like Mark did on that bomb down the sideline, instead of putting his hands up and catching it, you drop it. So you get all this stuff on film. And what makes me excited, Mark, is that it's on film versus Louisville, not on film versus Clemson, and definitely not on the field versus these people on Saturday. Because now, what are you excited about? What do you drop 4 passes, sir? What are you jumping up and down for? We need to go back and get focused and refocus and get our leaders need to be in people's ears about how we're catching. We had a lot of penalties. It was kind of a sloppy, scrappy game too. I mean, Louisville was doing a lot of dirty, underhanded things. And then whenever we reacted, of course, and that's across college football, the reactor is the one who usually gets the penalty instead of the person who actually did anything. And like I said, I can make excuses for it all day when it comes to the referees, but some of it, and even for you, can acknowledge, man, that was a horribly refereed game in the way of Louisville, man. It seemed like they were really leaning towards the Cardinal because it was some of that stuff was not fair at all.
I was watching the game intently, but not just with a scrutiny with every play and looking at everything like certain games. And I thought it was pretty obvious that the officiating was poor. And I truly don't think that, and who knows, we can't get in the hearts and minds of people, but I truly don't think that they were intentionally officiating against Miami. But there are poorly officiated games in which it's just random and it's all over the place. But then there are poorly officiated games where you're like, yeah, about 4 out of every 5 of these poor calls are going against one team. So, and that's what the deal was. I don't think there was any question that most of the bad calls went against Miami.
And then there's also a point, and I don't know because I've seen it in high school ball, but I don't know if it's like that in college. Because I was at a rivalry game between Miami Northwestern and Miami Central. And it was about 8 penalties within the first 3 minutes of it. I mean, it was just scrappy, push and fight. And so the referees stopped the game and called both head coaches to the middle of the field and basically had to, hey, we need to fix this because this is starting to get out of hand. Control your teams or we're going to start kicking people out of the game. And it got to a point where one of the officials who was on the broadcast was saying that, you know, this is way too many penalties. This is a kind of scrappy, sloppy game. They need to talk to the leaders or they need to talk to the coaches to get control of this game. And it never happened, you know, and it just those penalties just kept on going. So we'll see, man.
Got the wholesome one on the line to talk Miami football. You got to check out his channel. So as soon as we get off here, if you're not familiar, haven't subscribed, that's what you're going to do right when we get done here. Head on over to HOLSUM and the number 1, Wholesome One. If you do the YouTube search, it pops up. It's right on the top of the screen. The Wholesome One right here on YouTube, Miami Football Talk. Their analysis, breakdowns of the games, the matchups, the players, the personnel, the rosters, the whole deal with the Wholesome One. And he joins us on a regular basis to break it down here as well. So also the super chat's on if you want to contribute in that way. Certainly like the video, share the videos, and out on social media, and leave your comments here, and we will get them to the Wholesome One or myself. Somebody mentioned here, would I now be picking Notre Dame to beat Miami? Well, the two teams don't play, and I never said that I was picking Notre Dame to beat Miami, so I don't know what the comment was. If the two teams played, I think they're very comparable. I think it's pretty much of a toss-up. Maybe I give a slight edge still to Notre Dame, but that's my answer to that question. All right, let's see what we got here. We'll put Louisville away unless you've got anything else there. We got Florida State coming up. Don't know if you had a chance to see Georgia Tech or see FSU and scout them, but they certainly had a rough go, especially on offense after scoring in the first drive of the game against Georgia Tech.
Yeah. I mean, the only final thing I want to say about Louisville is, I mean, I said a lot of bad, so I got to make sure I come around with the good things, man. We were able to take the team on our away game, and only 2 players weren't able to make that trip, and Jeremiah Payton and Larry Hodges, due to what's going on. And they were able to, I don't know for a fact that they'll be ready for Saturday, because usually you have to quarantine 14 days, so I don't know. Don't know the logistics about all of that type of stuff. But we were able to kind of go up there and handle business away from home. And I think that's going to be important going on moving forward because of traveling and how different it is. And usually you travel a couple days before and you practice up there and all that type of stuff. We didn't leave until Friday, the day before the game. So all that type of stuff. So I like the way Coach Manny Diaz and his staff is really handling away games and handling this team. I love it's crazy we spent this whole time, Mark, and didn't talk about the Ed Reed effect. I mean, to the point where they started showing his highlights and, his halftime speech, his famous halftime speech versus Tallahassee. That was just it was a great thing to see. And I had some friends of mine who aren't fans of the Miami Hurricanes say, well, even ESPN is behind you guys. Well, they're only showing that because we're beating them. If it was a blowout or we were losing, they wouldn't be showing any of that stuff. It's just at that point we were pulling away, so they had to come up with some other stuff, and there's still that one play where they happened to be filming him while he went and spoke to the referee, and you could read his lips say, "Watch number 7, he's holding our tight end." On that very next play, Mark, we tried to do a passing play, and number 7 whips Will Mallory around like he's running for a seam with his hand up. Number 7 grabs this shoulder and pulls him around. And then it's like, oh, well, I have to call it. Ed Reed just said it, and then I'm focusing on number 7, and then he holds him. So that was really cool that we were able to get that. It's a couple of cut-ups on Twitter. It's pretty funny, actually, that we were able to get that. But the team didn't really lose any focus. They stayed, even though they're getting pushed after the play, they're getting stepped. Mark Pope gets stepped on. They're getting held. Instead of complaining, they kept playing and stayed focused. Yeah, we had a couple drops. We had some false starts. We even had a couple holding penalties on us, but none on them. We missed some tackles, but we also made some tackles. We got the Dawn, the turnover chain, the state of Miami. Al Blades Jr. being able to wear the chain on national TV. Guess what? He caught it because he used his hands, Mark, not his stomach. All right, and that's how you're supposed to catch the football. Catch the football. He should have had 2, though. He dropped the second one, but he caught the first one. We were able to don it on national TV. I love it. It's the whole state of Florida, but the U and the 3 main counties, Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach are glossed out in the orange and green, focused in over them. So it's basically saying the state of Miami, talking about how Howard Schnellenberger did things back in the 80s. So that was I love the way it came out. It looks amazing. Our specialists are on a different level at punter and kicker. So some great things, man. Great things that happened on the field. A lot to take away good and a couple to take away bad. And I'm hoping we're able to really focus in and change some things moving forward.
Yeah, I said let's move on, but I thought of 2 other things, and you just alluded to one. You got a kicker. He hit on 4 for 4. Manny sent him out there for a 57-yarder at the end of the first half. Mm-hmm. Had he missed that, you put Louisville in prime position. It's 17-6 before he makes the kick. Louisville's in good field position to do something, so there's got to be a lot of confidence in him, and he made it look like a 28-yarder. So got a kicker. And Bubba Bolden, I don't know if he had a tremendous game across the board, but the plays that flashed for me, it's like, again, you got the TV view, so you don't know what's going on. It's not like you get the coach's film, but you see a receiver. It was usually in the deep flat. It was some kind of curl, or it was in the deep flat. They'd catch the ball. You didn't see anybody. And then all of a sudden, Bubba Bolden out of nowhere and wrapping them up. Just beautiful form tackles.
Yep.
Wrapping them up on the spot, not dragging guys. You see so many guys that struggle to get these tackles, get guys to the ground. And I'm not saying the tackling's easy, but Bubba Bolden would just wrap these dudes up and drop them right on the spot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, hey, it was a talk of a lot of what happens here with Light Skin Warrior, because that's what I call him, because he's from the West Coast and he looks like one of the basketball players, tall, slender, skinny guy. Who, could shoot 3-pointers. So I called him Light Skin Warrior. People love it. Some people took it a whole different way, but either way, it kind of took on his thing of his own. So it's kind of cool to see people saying it in the fan base across and giving me flack for it. But it was great to see him on and get, ACC Defensive Player of the week based on what he did in that game. I think it was 11. Stat line was 11 tackles.
Whoa.
Yeah. Bolden, 11 tackles, 9 solo, and a TFL. I mean, he was all over the field. It's one play, and I'll have this film breakdown dropping tomorrow, Mark, if you want to swing over there and check it out. I'm going to start doing film reviews and also film previews, but my film review will be about Louisville. And so it's 2nd and 6. They do a little out route to Tutu Atwell, who makes it 3rd and 3. So Bubba Bolden is at free safety, comes down and makes a tackle for just a 3-yard gain when it could have been a lot more. The very next play on the opposite flat goes from free safety and makes it a tackle at the line of scrimmage. On the opposite, a simple out route again on the opposite to the field side. He comes humming all the way down and makes the open field tackle. And if he doesn't make those tackles, I don't know. I have in big bold letters all over this film. Thank God for 21, because he is an eraser. And I got to give that credit to Pedro on my channel who said it, the eraser, because his tackling, he has perfected that way that our coaches are trying to teach our players to tackle. The modern day way of the whole ankle biting, ankle roll stuff. I can't stand it, but there's some people who have perfected it. And he's the one on the team that it's like soon as he gets there, he just knows how to clink ankles together. They go straight down. They may fall forward sometimes, but they aren't going too much further than when he grabs them. So it's safe, and he's perfected that routine. I think he's probably always tackled like that. Probably had been taught that since high school, because the way he does it now is instant. They go straight down to the ground, no questions asked. So, yeah, I was super excited to see him and Nestor J. Silvera do very, very well. Those are 2 players I've talked a lot about, and the only one I was waiting to do something on the offensive side of the ball was Noodles, Mark Pope. He ended up having some pretty good catches, but for the most part, it'll be remembered for the drops that he had. So those are usually the 3 guys that I've talked a lot about. I've defended all 3, and 2 out of the 3 really showed up on a national stage. So I was really happy to see that.
Yeah, Bubba Bolden, the TFL, they showed that from the end zone view where he was playing his receiver and he diagnosed the play like that. It was a running play, shot the gap, wrapped him up, bam.
And the funny part about that is, like you said, that wasn't even his man. We were in man coverage, but he recognizes it. He breaks off, and the player who was in man coverage still was nowhere to be found until the play had already been made, and then he jogs up like, "Hey, good job. Where were you?" Like, that's what I mean. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot, Mark, to take away. But I'm gonna focus on the good. See, it's still messing with me, Mark. Still messing with me. I wanted to be known on record. I've never called him that.
Oh, is that what that is?
Oh, okay. I got to retell the story. So what happened was, Mark, I called. This is kind of embarrassing, but whatever. So I was, I was talking about the fact that, he is a multiracial young man. And so I was saying that, he's kind of like the Hershey's cookies and cream. But I was like, I would never call another man cookies and cream. Like you just don't do that, you know? So the people who happened to be on that live took it and ran with it. I'm like, I never called them that. I'm just saying, you know, I call them light skin warrior just to make, you know, a joke out of it, talking about the basketball team. And a couple of them said, no, you said cookies and cream. And they ran with it. So it's just a joke within, you know, my subscribers on the channel. But it makes it wherever I go, everybody brings it up, man. On Twitter, they still give me flack about it. But it's actually pretty funny, man.
That's tremendous. All right, we got the wholesome one here to talk Louisville, and now move on to Florida State. And the Seminoles, with their issues a couple of weeks ago against Georgia Tech, blowing a 10-point lead. They scored on the first possession of the game. Then the offense disappeared, lost 16-13. So I watched that entire game. And for a team that's a 12.5-point favorite, they're at home. They're taking on a quarterback that's not just a true freshman, but he's making his first start, and it's on the road. This is the first time he's stepped on a collegiate field. And because of it, he throws 2 bad picks in the first half, recovers from that. They block 3 kicks. It's tough to lose a game when you block 3 kicks and go up 10-0, facing a freshman quarterback making his first start. But Florida State accomplished all of that. So they're having their problems right now, and their head coach has COVID, which is obviously not a good thing and nothing we wish upon anyone. But hopefully he's recovering. And from all indications that I've heard from my Florida State contacts, it's nothing serious in regards to his health. So we got.
First off, I mean, no love at all, but at the end of the day, something like that has taken lives, and you know, that's not something you want to joke about. You know, so I want to make sure I put that out there, especially in our fan base, because we can get very wild sometimes. You know, you don't want to wish that. That's not something to laugh and poke fun at all. You know, I wish him a very safe recovery, and I hope he hasn't had any interaction with any young people or elderly people. You know, so just hope he can go on from that. Now, about their program, I think there comes a point that you can poke fun at, but they could have said the same thing about us under Al Golden. You know, things just done. There comes a point where programs take a drop. And as of right now, it just looks like they're not playing their best football. They're still very talented. You still talk about Wilson, who I'm not very fond of. I don't think he's all that good. As a defensive line guy, I'm far from an expert. You know, there's people that know way more than me. But as a former player and somebody who's watched tons of film for years, he's size and strength. And size and strength at the next level is not the thing you can hang your hat on to a certain extent. But he's a solid college player. I mean, when he plays Miami, he does nothing, though. Just nothing. The last 2 years he's played Miami, hasn't made a stat, you know, much at all. But at the same time, you got a lot of South Florida talent on that team. They're going to I look it back to 2018, Mark, when Miami, we had that LSU loss, but we won every other game after that. And we play them at home. I think it was like a 3 p.m. and they jump out to a 24-7 lead on us. And we come storming back and win 28-27. You know, so there comes a point in this rivalry game where there's people who feel disrespected about the other team's colors and the other team's logos. And one side decides that they're going to show up. Hey, hashtag Live Squad. Much love, much love. They're going to show up. They're going to execute. They're going to play with energy. They're going to play with fire. And they're going to kick the other team in the mouth. And then there's the other team who decides like, oh, well, they're down. You know, we'll eventually catch fire. And when we do, they won't be able to come back. So what I'm hoping is Rhett Lashley, coach, you know, not Coach Ed Reed, but Ed Reed, and the aggression of these leaders are going to be able to go into this game, Mark, and keep them down. Do not let them back into the game. I don't care if we're up 35-0 at halftime. The final score better be 63-0. We cannot take our foot off of the gas. There is no mercy. There is no tap out. You can't call uncle. There isn't a mom that you can call to get me off of you. Keep finishing the play. Keep head hunting. keep open field tackling, keep catching the football, keep making your throws, keep blocking, keep scoring. There's until the referee says, Miami Hurricanes, you've already won the game. Please stop. That's the only time we stop. By no circumstances should I see us taking the foot off the gas right before halftime, like Coach Manny B has done the last two games. We shouldn't see fourth quarter 14 points given up like we have against Louisville and 7 points given up versus UAB. When we start playing this cover 4 crap and playing off the ball and letting people score underneath and run up and down the field. Okay, this is a game where we need to, proverbially at least, take the sword out, put it through their heart, and hold it there the whole game. That's it. That's it. They're dysfunctional. They're down right now. They're going to come out firing. This is their Super Bowl. They're going to come out firing at first. They're going to play their heart out. I mean, you're going to see them. There may be some trick plays in there. You know, they're going to have where it looks like it's going to be this play because that's what's been on film, but it's actually a double pass. You know, all those type of things to get us off of the hump. They may even have an early lead. Because there was plenty of times, Mark, where you go back in the early 20 teams where I'll go to teams because we were so fired up and ready to go and we weren't the better team, but we would have a 7-0 lead early in the game, a 10-0 lead early in the game. But you got to keep playing 60 minutes. And under Jimbo Fisher, they were a second half team that would come out and put up 28 in that second half like that if you let them. Because they would go in and make their adjustments. They would come out and score touchdowns. I've talked about it all the time, Mark. I will never forget it. 2014, my freshman year at Mayville State University, okay? We were blowing these people out, Mark. Brad Kaya on national TV, throwing all over the yard. We were up 33-10 at halftime. We lost the game 36-33 because we felt like we had it in the bag and we just had to run the ball the second half. They come storming back and end up winning the game. And it was a backbreaker to not only recruiting, but to the focus and the psyche of our team, going on to lose 4 games after that game. So we have to keep them down. We have to finish that game. And I need us to do it. Will we do it? That's up to the young men responsible for what happens on the field and the adults responsible to how they keep it focused and how they call the game on Saturday.
It's a 10-point spread based on what I've heard. Most Miami fans are predicting a huge, enormous blowout. And by the performances of the two teams in their last outing, I get it. And Florida State is really dysfunctional on offense, and they don't have a whole lot to go to. Their receivers did not look good in game 1. I mentioned the Georgia Tech freshman quarterback, Jeff Sims, who by the second half looked like the better of the two quarterbacks and the more experienced of the quarterbacks. He got those 2 really bad picks, really bad decisions and throws out of the way, and they had to rely on him throwing 40 to 45 times in that game, and he looked pretty good. He righted his wrongs, and James Blackman, I know the offensive line, and that's another huge advantage for Miami right there, lining up against that offensive line with your defensive front. But Blackman, when he had time, just didn't look good. The receivers didn't make plays. The receivers didn't catch the ball. They don't have anybody dynamic at running back. They are really scuffling on offense, and I don't know if they're going to have any answers against a defense that's 10 times better than Georgia Tech's. Georgia Tech just gave up a 49 spot to UCF and 420 some yards passing, and they couldn't score against them.
And like I say, Mark, I mean, I'm no coach, but I'm speaking psychologically through whoever can listen. I understand it looks like Miami should win. It looks like we should line up and be able to shellac these people and mop them all over the wall. But anything about this rivalry and anything about this game will tell you that records don't matter. They're going to come to show up. Now, final score, I mean, at least for the first quarter. I mean, if you're super aggressive and you're able to scheme some guys open early and make some big plays, we can end up having a 21 some odd early lead, and I don't know if they would be able to keep fighting against us. Because, I mean, we won 27-10 last year. And there was a point where it got close, but the way our defense was coming downhill on Cam Akers, who's a very solid player. I mean, he was top 50 nationally, in my opinion. He was really good. And he had
carries in the NFL right now.
Really? See, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he's playing for the Chargers last week. They had him down there in the red zone running the ball.
And see, Shaq Quarterman had his greatest game ever in his life in that one game. You know, I don't know what was said pregame, but 55 showed up like no tomorrow. You know, and then Greg Rousseau basically had his coming out party versus him. I mean, 4.5 sacks. He just went ballistic on him. Nestor Severa got his first career sack in that game. I mean, they just went crazy on that offensive line. Well, if we know that and we see that, you can't say that they don't know it and see it too. So I think they're going to scheme ways to get all that type of stuff, you know, try to use the flats, or, you know, they throw a lot of screens and try to use the edges to attack the Miami Hurricanes. And then, you know, hopefully Bubba Bolden doesn't jump up. He just comes and claps. That was another thing I love to see, Mark, because, you know, this was the game where he jumped up and his ankle, broke his ankle in Tallahassee last year. But every time he makes a play, he's on the ground and he just high fives everybody. So that's really good to see that, you know, that he, you know, learned from that. But it was just a freak accident anyway. But, man, like I say, anything about this rivalry here, Mark, man, you have to play 60 minutes. And there's a couple blowouts in there. You know, I mean, I think it was it 2013 when we were ranked number 7 in the country, and I think they were ranked number 1 or number 2. We had Duke Johnson and we had ABC and all of that stuff. And they had Winston, and it was a 41-14 affair. They beat us pretty bad on national TV. We have to do the same to them. You know, we have to keep the team down and play 4 quarters of dominant football. A lot easier said than done, you know, with the talent that they have, because you still have what's the young man that had the 2 interceptions? I'm going up.
Asante Samuel.
Yeah. You know, South Florida guy. Probably should have been a Kane, but didn't. You know, you also have Dent, former, I think it was like borderline 5-star free safety for them. Very long locks, brother, like me. And, you know, they're going to have some talent. You got Tate at wide receiver. They don't have a big running game this year. You know, usually that was the thing over the last decade and a half, whether it was Devontae Freeman. They go from Freeman to James Wilder and Cook. You know, you go from them to Akers last year. I mean, it was some years there where it was like, man, every year they go get a big time running back, mix it with this pro style blocking offensive line. It was just mixed with our soft 3-4 off coverage, and we couldn't stop nothing. We couldn't make plays. So we don't have that problem anymore. We have an attack 4-2-5 that picks and chooses when it wants to show up and when it wants to play hard. So hopefully we don't give up the edge and containment this game like we had against UAB and against Louisville. And I'm hoping we get off blocks and make plays. But I think how Louisville game ended is going to really focus this team. And I think they're going to come out swinging versus Tallahassee. Because I watched majority of that GT game live. I've had the chance to go back and watch the whole thing scouting Tallahassee. And it was very, very bad. It was just a very bad snooze fest game. You know, the most exciting thing you watched was their opening drive when they scored. And then you also had their blocked field goals. It's like, I couldn't believe that happened. Back to back to back. Every time they got there, it was a blocked field goal, you know. And I'm not a big fan of Georgia Tech by any means, but I'm rooting for them. You know, favorite team is Miami, whoever's playing Tallahassee. That's just how it is. So I was a Georgia Tech fan for that night, and they eventually came out with a W. So I was happy to see that.
So we had a question from somebody wanting to know what the status of Gervin Hall is, and Devin Ray's asking about maybe a breakout player, unsung hero against Florida State.
Answer your first question, Mark, about Kirby Hall, he's safe. He's ready to go. I think he'll be able to play in this game and start if he earns the opportunity to start. Based on what the coaches' interviews have been, he's safe and ready to go. Unsung hero, I think it's probably going to be the De'Aaron King come-out party. I think he's going to be the one that just goes off. I don't know if that's an unsung hero, but breakout, I think he's going to be willing and dealing, and probably because there's a lot of reads that he left on that field still. You know, it wasn't like I say, I don't know if he's being told not to pull stuff, but it gets to a point where I'm watching Louisville, go back to Louisville for a bit, Mark. So we had about 21 first down plays. Of those 21 first down plays, Mark, 18 were a simple dive. Just a simple handoff. And of those 18, 12 was either a tackle for loss or a tackle at the line of scrimmage. So it was like, well, what are we doing here? You're losing a down, and now it's 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 11, and then you watch it, and it's like, well, if he pulls it, there's nobody there. He can take off. So I don't know. Maybe they're saving that for Clemson. I don't know. But I think he's going to refine a lot of those skills and be ready and roaring for this Tallahassee game. So I look at De'Aaron King defensively. I think this is going to be the Jalen Phillips big-time show. I think he is going to eat. I don't know if he's going to have the 4.5 like Greg did, but he has been creeping closer and closer and closer to getting after the QB because he has a lot of QB hurries. So I think now he's going to be able to bring them down and make those tackles.
All right, folks, this is what we get from the Wholesome One each time we bring him on, breakdown of Miami football, and we certainly appreciate it. We believe we'll have Cam Underwood on later this week for another Miami Live previewing Florida State. Check out the Wholesome One over on his YouTube channel. I didn't see any other questions necessarily in the live chat that we need to get to. Just a lot of comments, a lot of encouragement. We appreciate that. And certainly a lot of trash talking against Tallahassee. But,
there you go, Mark.
One right there. There's the banner right there. If you're not familiar, Wholesome One, HOLSUM, and the number 1 Holloway right here on YouTube. You'll find it if you just search it. And please subscribe there. Subscribe here. Keep us going here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Florida State, Miami. We'll have plenty of coverage here. I'll have my prediction over on Patreon. Plenty of live streams and analysis there as well. Wholesome One, we appreciate you stopping by and making this thing real.
Yep, no problem. A final prediction. Miami, 38, Tallahassee, 17.
Okay, there it is.
38-17. So appreciate the stage. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you so much for everybody that's hashtag Live Squad for hashtag Rewatch Squad. Go ahead and hit the like button. Make sure you comment down below and let us know how much you love those Canes, man. Mark, thank you so much. Have a great day.